I'd like to call to order the December 21st, 2023 Board of Adjustment meeting. Could I get a roll call, please, Brandy?
Yes, Hanson.
Here.
Dargis Johnson.
Here.
Rink.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Culhane.
Here.
And Aletsky, Spire, Dolly, and Kays are absent. We do have a quorum. We have 5 members present, which for a variance or for a conditional use request, we need the majority. So we need 3 of the 5. The conditional use.
Is conditional use? Two-thirds.
3.33 after that, I told before.
Oh, okay. All right, 4.
No, sounds good. Good information to have since we have conditional use. further
Sorry,
on
that
the
was,
agenda.
majority is plan commission. Sorry,
Yes.
guys.
All right, item 3 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion and a second?
Second. I mean, so moved. Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 4th item is the approval of the minutes from the December 7th meeting. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 on our agenda is our regular agenda. 5A is board consideration of a conditional use at 519 West Kemp. Brandy, will you take over, please?
Yes, thank you, Jeff. I'm not sure why Teams isn't loading. Nick? I just didn't know if anybody was online. It's been loading for a while, but, sorry, guys.
See if that works. Do you need Teams to be open?
Well, just because we do advertise for it, yeah. In case anybody did log on that way. Okay, and then I can,
Forgive me.
okay, now we'll just see if it, all right, perfect, thank you. Might be, because I have to do this dang authentic. All right. There's a two-way, or the two-way authenticator now, so the extra step. All for security purposes. So it's good. Okay, so we'll just let that load. All right, so what we have before you is a conditional use request for the property at 519 West Kemp. This is, the owner is Chad Eachin, and this is an existing commercial refrigeration building. And it is the, let me get down here. Sorry, guys, I'm very disorganized today. So it is the building, there's 2 structures on the lot, and this is the building to the west. And then the building to the east is for warehouse storage. So the structure that we're looking at for the conditional use is this the west building. And what he's asking for is to incorporate apartments, or in this case, it will just be 1 apartment unit. If he were to remodel this existing building, then he will have the mixed use. So the apartment will be on the south end, and then the commercial refrigeration business will remain on the north end. All of the ordinance requirements as far as off-street parking, pavement, building code standards, all of those things would be reviewed at the time of building permit issuance. This building originally was built or constructed in 1985. And at the time, there was a variance granted for the side yard setback, as you can see there, that west side. And even GIS, the property lines aren't always the most accurate, but that does have a lesser setback than required, because at the time this was built, it was actually zone C3 highway commercial. which requires a 20-yard or 20-foot side yard setback. And then now today, this property is zoned C2 local commercial. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Chair? Brandy, I'm just curious why this is a request that would be considered a townhouse.
So that is where, if you go to the definition of apartments, which I think I have it all laid out there, because a townhouse, the definition is one of a group or row of two or more single-family dwellings designed and built as a single structure in which each unit has its own entrance. So when we amended the ordinance for apartments, you now go to the mixed or the multifamily. All right, so it used to take you to C dwelling unit, and then now it says C dwelling unit multifamily, and then there is listed the townhouse complex and attached row housing. So because this will be a standalone apartment that will have its own entrance, that's why it's defined as that.
But the definition, I'm just, to me, there's a disconnect. The definition said a townhouse is one of a group or a row of two or more. And there's no group or no row of two or more.
I
guess
see your
I would-
interpretation.
Pardon?
I understand your interpretation.
Well, it's in black and white. It's not my interpretation. I mean, one of a group means more than one of a group, or a row of two or more. I don't see a group and I don't see two or more.
So would you like to require that there be two apartments?
No, I just said, I think there's a disconnect between what is stated in here and what the applicant is actually asking for. I wonder if he's just asking for the dwelling unit, which is still listed in the ordinance as a residential accommodation, which includes complete kitchen facilities, et cetera, rather than a townhouse. This term dwelling unit seems to more accurately represent what he's asking for. I guess I'm trying to avoid any confusion down the road that if we call this a townhouse and it's one apartment in a building, other people may say, that's what I want, because that's how it was approved at this time.
Oh, so you're looking at the ordinance, how they haven't updated the ordinance since our last amendment. So it doesn't have the ability to just go to dwelling unit. So that's where, I mean, I see where you're coming from.
So that term dwelling unit, I just printed it off today. It's
Yeah.
no longer in,
No, yeah, well, it is in the ordinance still, but we did an amendment when we revised the CL Lake Commercial District. Then that was one of the amendments, just because the dwelling unit wasn't really appropriate for how to describe an apartment either. So really, it's like looking at it as if everything, like, it's a matter of if you want to have multiple. So if you can have an apartment, you could have apartments. So I guess if that's something that you're like, that you have issue with, as far as how it's defined with two or more, then you could require that there be two apartments, I guess. At least two, or two townhouses, but
that's not my intent. My intent is to say we need to accurately reflect what the applicant wants, which is one apartment. And the townhouse description doesn't fit that request.
so
So do we have one? My question is, do we have something better? Since I only looked at the ordinances today as they were, I assumed they were updated, but not, so I had nothing else to go by.
yeah. And that is something that, so our division does not manage that. And we're actually, I mean, we're going through recodification right now, and then
Well, then-
working with the city attorney's office then to get those
Okay,
updated.
so I don't want to delay all of this any further because that just takes up our applicant's time. But I have a concern that down the road, people are going to look at this and it's just going to create confusion. So we can move forward, I'm fine. But for me, it's, I like my black and I like my white. And I
Right.
love my definitions to actually reflect reality.
Yeah.
So.
And I do think that that is something then that, as we're utilizing the amendment that we made to the apartment definition, then we can continue to tweak it to make it fit where it's not, where it's allowing them to have one unit or X amount of units.
Right.
So I will make sure to make that amendment then when we because we'll bring Title 21 forward to you all when we get further in getting ready to recodify the ordinance. So,
Thank you.
yep, thank you.
Yeah, that's a great catch and great discussion, yeah. Because, yeah, you're right, I read through all those too, and there's no single apartment, but there are single apartments that exist and need to exist. Brandy, could I ask, would you turn on the zoning and just so I could see what the adjacent zoning of this neighborhood looks like?
Yes, and I think it's on the vicinity map in your packets too, but I will get that. I believe it's, yeah, so you have I-1 to the east, R2A to the west, which is single-family attached, and then C3, where the Elks is, there to the south.
In R2A, that would allow for apartments, right?
Well, not apartments,
but-
but a duplex, and then or up to a 3 or 4-plex by conditional use.
Thank you. Any other questions for Brandy? If,
Chair, Brandy, just I guess with Diana's point of view, which I guess I didn't even think about it. How come we aren't calling it a caretaker's unit then?
So a caretaker's residence is not I don't think it's a use in the C2 district, because we also, during that amendment to the CL district, we revised the definition of a contractor's residence or caretaker's residence, because you know how we were getting those requests for the I-1 districts, and we didn't want it to become like the family's primary residence. So we tightened up that definition as well. And I don't believe, I'll look here.
Yeah, and that was my understanding, that's why I figured you didn't go that way, is because I thought it was supposed to be an employee or the owner himself living there or themselves.
Yeah, and it's not an option.
Right, okay,
In
thank
the
you.
C2 district, yeah.
So, excuse me, Chair, Brandy, but, so, whatever, 4 blocks to the west, what used to be on West Kemp, what was there, the laundromat?
Oh, yeah.
What zone is that, or what, I mean, we have a caretaker residence in that property, but is that
That's
I-1 or?
C3. So just C2 is where you're getting to be more of the mixed use of the professional, like kind of the professional offices, some retail, commercial businesses, where it's like that transition between the residential and the heavier commercial. And so then that's the reason of not allowing it in the C2, because there really should be no reason to have a caretaker. And then by having the apartment use, then you can see that mixed use within C2 districts, which is something that, it's been a trend lately, because you can do the, live, work, and things are not as intrusive for having those compatible uses.
thank you. I would like to open up the public hearing. If there is anyone that wishes to speak in favor or against this item, please feel free to step up to the mic and state your name for the record.
Stumble. I'm old. Give me a break.
Well, I had to take.
Ken Buholtz. And again, part of the confusion is when we went through the ordinance and look at this, prior to the new ordinance even being in the book, the existing ordinance says apartments, an apartment is listed as a dwelling unit. So, and that's how we moved forward with it at the time. So I agree. I think it's just going to require a little more tweaking with your definition. And we haven't had any complaints from any of the neighbors or anything else. Nobody else has called, voicing any opinions on it. So unless you have a question for me, I just want to put up my 2 cents.
Yeah, I have a question. So since this is a conditional use, and we're talking about 1 or 2 units, would you have any issue if we put a condition that it be 1 unit or that it be 2 units, or do you have any thoughts on that? Just 1? Okay.
A question on the floor plan.
It's out.
Pardon?
It's out.
Yes. You have which you're calling a storage, but it has a closet in it. So if it's a storage room, it doesn't really need another closet in it. So it's probably going to be used as a bedroom. Can we, where you have that outside entrance or whatever, I mean, it looks like an outside door there, because they come in through the south door. So couldn't that wall just be eliminated and just put a window there so that that bedroom would actually have a window?
So Rhonda, those are details that we'll look at
Well,
though when
yeah,
they're
I
doing
mean, but that's,
the
I'm
code
just,
review.
I'm just, so that's what I'm seeing though. I just want to clarify that that's a concern for me is there's no window. So I understand, Brandy, you guys will take care of all that. I'm just noticing that, so I'm just.
And just FYI, the current intent is not for it to be a bedroom whatsoever. This is just a single, 2 people. I guess if they really get mad at each other, they could throw one in the other room, but there's still the couch in the living room, but.
I'm just showing my concern on that one, thank
Yeah,
you.
no. That is definitely not the intent.
No, that's a good point. I do think, like Brandy said, when it comes to what's a legal bedroom, the code enforcement rules will apply, and it's gonna be a bedroom, it has to have ingress, egress windows, so. Are there any other questions for the applicant while we still have him at the podium?
I'm not the applicant, Chad is.
Okay. Any other questions for Ken while we have him at the podium? Seeing none, I will ask if there's anyone else from the audience that wishes to speak in favor or against this item. Please feel free to do so.
Do you guys want to say anything?
Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second. I would consider, or would ask the board to consider, since we have a little bit of confusion about the number of units, that we put the number as a condition, but that's just my 2 cents, so. Looking for a motion and a second.
Go ahead.
I'll move to approve with the condition that it be 1 apartment. Is that what you asked for, Jeff? And that we approve it under the conditional use number 12, since we're unsure about the townhouse, which are other uses which in the opinion of the Board of Adjustment are of the same general character, rather than apartment, since that's kind of a gray area now.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And then because then basically we're using the definition of dwelling unit.
Right.
Perfect.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from any board members?
Chair, if I may. So the single apartment, I'm kind of splitting hairs, but just for clarification, so does the single, it's 1 piece of property with 2 different physical addresses, or not?
It will turn into unit 1 and 2.
So down the road, would he be able to come back and say, hey, I want to put another apartment in the second building? I mean, are we saying 1 apartment for the property or per building?
So what is shown is what the conditional use is for, only in that footprint. Even if he wanted to expand the footprint of the apartment all the way in that west building, he couldn't. The only thing that you guys are approving is what is shown as the apartment area.
But again, is there anything to prevent him if he, at some point, I mean, I know it's his business or storage now, but if he wanted to come back in a year, 6 months, 5 years, that he couldn't put another apartment in the other?
Yeah, okay, let me rephrase that. Variances are very much specific to the building project. The fact that you guys are conditioning it to only allow one apartment, then he could not expand. But if you guys were just allowing the conditional use that runs with the property, then he would be able to put additional apartments in. It could be a completely different building as well.
It'd have to come before us, though.
Well, the fact that you guys are conditioning it to one,
Yeah, because we're conditioning it to one, it'd have to come before us.
Yes.
And I think, to me personally, the only reason we're putting a condition on it is because of the discrepancies in the ordinance definitions. You know, if there wasn't that, then I maybe wouldn't have asked that we put that condition. But to answer your point, I think at this time, if they wanted to put a second or third or fourth apartment, they would have to come before and ask for another condition.
And this is Ken again, he has no objection to that being just a single.
Yeah, and I'd more for clarification for him that,
yeah, so.
yes, you can or no, you can't, or,
And to clarify too, because I did make that confusing, knowing that you guys conditioned it to one. But typically then conditional uses run with the property if the use is granted that they could expand on it. But with the condition, that's why they're only able to do one in that footprint that is shown.
Thank you for that. Are there any other questions or clarifications? Seeing none, I will ask for a roll call vote, Brandy.
All right, Brink,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Colhane,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Hanson.
yes.
With a vote of 5-0, motion is approved. Item 6 on the agenda is open public comment. If there's anything not on the agenda that someone wants to talk about, here's your opportunity. I see no one getting up, so I'll move on to item 7, which is new business. Do we have any new business, Brandy?
No, none that I have.
Anything from the board?
Old.
Seeing none, I'll move on to old business.
Ford has a concern that the ordinance, as it's available to the public, is inaccurate. So I don't know how we communicate, maybe the board, communicates that concern to whoever it is that's responsible for that. But I guess
And I will relay that because like I said, it is a different department that does update it. So I will make sure that that does get updated. And then I'm also not sure as far as like, if there's a statute on how fast of a turnaround that it needs to be updated to be publicly available. All of the, any ordinance that goes to city council and is approved is available on the website. So not all, I don't think it's like a legal requirement that you have your ordinance posted. I understand that if you have it posted, that it should be accurate. So somebody's having the right information, but I'll check with our city attorney on that.
thank you.
Yeah, and I think it was probably one of those where as long as someone knows they need to update it, they probably will. So I think that's a good point to make.
Move to adjourn.
Got a motion? Got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you